At the merger press conference between Lawson Group and Summers Tech, my soon-to-be publicly announced fiancé, Nathan Lawson, received a desperate plea for help from his recently divorced ex-lover, Rose, and because of it, he abandoned the entire room of media and investors, mobilized his private jet, and brought her back from a vacation island. While I was being surrounded by financial reporters with no way to get free, he said to me, "You're the golden girl who could never understand the pain Rose has just gone through, a divorce and a storm of online abuse. She's emotionally fragile right now, and apart from me, she has no one. She has experience managing the family trust and knows how to handle complex assets. Your latest technology work doesn't give you an edge in capital operations. From now on, the new company's investment decision committee will be chaired by her. Only someone at the chairman level can preside over investment decisions." He was planning to hand the lifeblood of the entire company to this woman and treat me, the founding CEO, like a mere figurehead. I turned and called the man I had been at odds with for years, Ethan Howard, president of Sterling Capital. "Ethan, want to see Lawson Group stock hit the limit down? Let's get married, and I'll give you this as a wedding gift." My special assistant just told me, "President Summers, President Lawson's private jet has just landed. He's helping a woman off the plane, looks like Miss Chiao. The two of them are acting very close," my assistant, Monica Chang, muttered in a low, furious tone. All around us, hundreds of guests and reporters were craning their necks and whispering. The golden hour for the press conference had already been missed by an hour and a half. Just 2 hours earlier, as Nathan was about to go on stage with me, he had received an urgent phone call from Rose's psychiatrist. While vacationing overseas, she had seen a scandalous rumor about her ex-husband, which had triggered a relapse of her post-traumatic stress disorder. Nathan's face had changed instantly. He grabbed his jacket and ordered the security chief to clear an emergency exit. I stepped in front of him. "Nathan, today is the global launch of the Starlight Project. All of our partners and investors are here, and you're gonna leave now?" His brow furrowed, his face tight with anxiety. "Rose has severe psychological trauma. This incident has badly triggered her. She's alone on the island. Something could happen to her at any moment. I'll be back right away. At most, the press conference will just be postponed a little." I stared straight into his eyes. "Nathan, the reputation of Summers Tech is not something to toy with. If you walk out of this door today, our cooperation agreement ends here." My parents, standing behind me, looked equally grim. The date for this press conference had been carefully chosen, even considered an auspicious day by Wall Street analysts. If he left now, he wouldn't be back for at least 3 hours, and the company's stock price would plunge immediately. Lawson Group's PR director hurried forward to persuade him. "Mr. Lawson, why not finish the ceremony first, then go? Or send a team of medical specialists to handle it?" Nathan refused without hesitation. "No, Rose's condition is very special. She only trusts me. I have to go personally." He turned to me. "Morgan, stop making a scene. I'll be back soon. It's just a few hours later. Do you really have to blow this out of proportion? Is a business event more important than a human life?" Before he finished speaking, he brushed past my arm and strode out with his people. The roar of helicopter blades soon filled the rooftop. 3 hours later, he returned, supporting Rose at his side, with an elite team of bodyguards following close behind, radiating authority. Rose leaned weakly against his arm, wearing a black smart wristwatch I knew all too well, because I had personally participated in designing it with our company's newest materials as a custom keepsake for the launch. On the back of the watch's face was engraved the code for our two companies' merger. And now, that one-of-a-kind watch was on Rose's wrist. The guests looked on in shock as Nathan shielded Rose and guided her through the crowd. Resting in his arms, Rose's expression carried a trace of apology as she murmured faintly, "Nathan, let me go. I'm fine." Her eyes glistened like those of a startled, lost fawn as she walked toward me. Stopping in front of me, she said softly, "You must be Miss Summers?" "I'm so sorry, Nathan," Rose said, her voice trembling. "It's all my fault. The press conference was affected. Everything is because of me." Her eyes reddened quickly as she continued, "If it weren't for my sudden loss of control, my assistant wouldn't have contacted you in such a panic. I've already scolded him for that. How could my personal matter be compared to something so important to Miss Summers' company? Please, Miss Summers, don't be upset with me. Otherwise, I really wouldn't know where to put myself. I hadn't said a single word yet when Nathan stepped in front of her, protectively, and demanded, "Rose knows today was important for us. She's been blaming herself for delaying you the entire way here. Now she's explaining things to you herself. What does your silence mean? Do you want her to be humiliated in front of everyone? You're the president of Summers Tech, a top woman in the tech industry, and you're making such a fuss over a small hiccup? It's not like I canceled the cooperation, just postponed it." Rose reached out her slender fingers and gently pressed them against his lips, giving him a pleading look. "Nathan, stop. Of course Miss Summers feels upset. It's only natural. This is all my fault. Why don't I bow to everyone and apologize? Would that be okay?" She actually began to move as if to bow deeply to the audience, but Nathan pulled her back into his arms. "That's enough, Morgan Summers. Must you force Rose to embarrass herself in public before you're satisfied?" I finally spoke. "Mr. Lawson, from the moment you walked in until now, I haven't said a single word, yet you keep piling accusation after accusation on me, saying I'm petty, cold, harsh. If I stay silent any longer, will the board meeting later be about forcing me out? The cooperation between our two companies is a multi-billion-dollar project. The timing of this press conference was chosen after analysis by top investment banks. Every step of it was carefully calculated. This isn't just about my personal feelings, it's about the reputation of both companies. Why don't you ask the board members and shareholders here whether your way of handling things was appropriate? Decisions at this level aren't mine to judge based on personal preference. And I'm just the technical lead, remember?" Nathan froze for a moment, then adjusted his expression and softened his tone. "All right, I'm back now, aren't I? Let the PR department rearrange things so we can continue the press conference. Also, Rose just got divorced and doesn't have a place to stay in Ocean City. Other than me, she has no one else to rely on. She'll be moving into my penthouse to live with us from now on. You've met her already, so from here on, we're family. Get along well." I let out a soft laugh. "Mr. Lawson, you're overstating it. Miss Chow has just been through a major change in her life. She should be keeping a low profile. I doubt I'll be seeing her much at the company anyway." Nathan looked at Rose with obvious indulgence. "That's where you're wrong. Back in her family, Rose helped manage the family trust. She's very skilled in capital operations. I've already decided, once you marry me, you can focus solely on R&D. A genius like you shouldn't be distracted by mundane matters. The new company's investment decision committee will be chaired by Rose. That way you won't have to worry about it." I stared at him in disbelief. "Do you even hear yourself? Only the chairman and core shareholders can sit on the investment decision committee." And here he was, at the press conference, in front of everyone, announcing that the financial lifeline of the new company would be handed to his recently divorced foster sister. Who would be the real decision-maker of the new company, me or her? This was him publicly stripping me of my authority. The Lawson Group PR director's face went pale, and he gave Nathan a quiet warning. "Sir, watch the occasion. The media is here." Rose immediately tugged on the hem of Nathan's suit jacket. "Nathan, stop. Miss Summers is upset. I'm just an outsider. How could I interfere with company operations? Staying at your place is already too much. If Miss Summers is unhappy about it, it'll put you in a very difficult position." "I'd better not move in after all," Rose said softly. "I thought that after coming back to the country, I would at least have you, Nathan, as family to rely on. But if my future sister-in-law really minds, then please just help me find an apartment somewhere else. I realize now that maybe I shouldn't have come back at all. If I'd known it would be like this, I would have stayed abroad. Even if my ex-husband's family harassed me, that would be better than causing trouble for you." As soon as she finished, tears slid down her cheeks like pearls breaking from a string. The sight made Nathan's heart ache. His eyes burned with anger as he glared at me. "Morgan Summers, I only asked Rose to help you share the work you're not good at, and I didn't expect you to be so exclusionary. To make such a fuss over something so small? How could someone with the kind of narrow mind lead the newly merged company?" I answered coldly. putting your foster sister in control of the company's financial lifeline, anyone who didn't know better would think Lawson Group was grooming a new heir. Nathan's face darkened. Rose is like my real sister. There's nothing improper between us. What's with your insinuations? Even if she were just an ordinary friend in trouble, I couldn't sit back and do nothing. I lifted my hand and pointed at the watch on Rose's wrist. Really? You're this generous with all your friends? Even giving away a commemorative limited edition watch engraved with the core merger code? If I remember correctly, that was my personal design to mark our cooperation, with our initials engraved on the back. Around us, the guests were already in an uproar, whispering among themselves. Has Mr. Lawson lost his mind, leaving in the middle of the press conference just to fetch his recently divorced foster sister? That watch, wasn't it a custom Heart of Time model? The only one in the world, worth millions. Mr. Lawson is really generous when it comes to a beauty. Didn't you see? He walked in holding Miss Chow the whole time. The media caught all of it. Now everyone knows Mr. Lawson has a precious little sister he can't bear to part with. If I were Morgan Summers, I'd never tolerate it. The way he acts with her is obviously inappropriate. Rose's face went pale instantly. With trembling hands, she unclasped the watch, her eyes rimmed red. Miss Summers, my emotions were unstable earlier, and Nathan thought I needed to monitor my heart rate, so he lent me this watch. I'll return it to you. She extended it toward me, looking so weak she might collapse at any moment. My assistant was just about to take it when Rose's wrist suddenly slackened and the watch slipped straight onto the polished marble floor with a crisp crack. The dial shattered instantly. Rose staggered back a step, her toe striking the broken watch. Nathan immediately caught her. What's wrong? Her face was white as paper. Nathan, my chest feels so tight, I can't seem to breathe. Then she looked apologetically at me. Miss Summers, I'm sorry, I broke your gift. I'll have my assistant fix it and return it to you. With that, she went limp, collapsing into Nathan's arms. He swept her up without hesitation. I'm taking you to the hospital. Who cares about some broken watch? And without another glance back, he carried her out. In his embrace, Rose's lips curved in the faintest, almost imperceptible smile. Her eyes met mine, brimming with triumphant gloating. The entire press conference had become a farce. My father's blood pressure shot up in anger, while my mother wiped away tears beside him. What now? They asked. Nathan Lawson is clearly not a reliable partner. For the sake of an ambiguous foster sister, he's willing to treat Summers Tech's future like a game. And he wants her involved in the company's core? After you marry him, will there even be a place for you in the company? What kind of international joke is this? How could you possibly marry someone like that? Later, in the top-floor data center of the company, I stood there staring at the figure leaning against a server rack, Ethan Howard, president of Sterling Capital. He and I had been rivals for years, and he knew my company's layout inside and out. Seeing him here didn't surprise me in the least. There was an unmistakable smirk on Ethan Howard's face as he said, Nathan Lawson, the kind of CEO who lets emotions dictate business decisions. And you actually picked him as your long-term partner? Morgan, your risk assessment model must have a serious bug. I cut off his mockery. Ethan, do you want to see Lawson Group kicked off the table? How about we get married? My tone was as calm and direct as the countless times I had challenged him across a negotiation table before. For the first time, the eagle-sharp eyes of Ethan Howard flickered with surprise. He froze for a long moment before finally coming back to himself. You're serious? I looked straight at him and let the corner of my lips curve up. Ethan, I'm giving you a chance to acquire Lawson Group. Do you dare take it? A spark ignited instantly in his gaze. After a brief pause, he said, 3 days from now, my legal team will bring you a proposal. I tilted my head and smiled. I'll be waiting. The joint press conference between the Lawson and Summers families had become the biggest joke in the finance world because of Nathan's stunt. I simply instructed my assistant to have the legal department draft all the termination documents and to notify Lawson Group's board to prepare for a dissolution notice. But before the termination letter could even be sent, Nathan showed up downstairs at my company, gift in hand, with Rose at his side, asking to see me. Rose stepped forward with a delicate document folder. Miss Summers, I didn't mean to damage that watch the other day. To express my apologies, I stayed up all night optimizing a supplemental agreement for your cooperation with Nathan. I hope it can help your project reach the next level." I gave her a faint smile. "That won't be necessary, but thank you for your effort, Miss Chiao. It's just that I'm afraid you're still unfamiliar with your company's business policies. According to our regulations, any additional clauses drafted by a non-party will be considered malicious interference, and the legal department has the right to reject them outright." Rose immediately pulled the file back, murmuring in embarrassment, "I'm sorry, I didn't know." She then looked up at Nathan with a guilty expression. "Nathan, did I mess things up again?" Nathan snatched the document from her hands and shoved it toward me. "Morgan Summers, enough already. This was Rose's goodwill, and you're really going to use company bylaws just to embarrass her? Over something so trivial, you had the legal department send a letter to terminate our cooperation? You're trying to break the contract? Rose just got divorced. She's already exhausted physically and mentally, and you still want to provoke her like this? Are you trying to use public opinion to force her out of the country? If you became my wife, wouldn't you just suppress her at every turn in the company? Keep this up, and I'll seriously reconsider our engagement." I smiled. "Careful with your words, Mr. Lawson. Our company hasn't even accepted Lawson Group's investment yet, so what engagement are you talking about? I told you that day, the moment you walked out that door, our cooperation was over. Now it's not about whether you still want to marry me. It's that I'm not marrying you." Nathan's face turned to iron in an instant. He stared at me in disbelief, as if I were a stranger he'd never met. "Morgan Summers, what did you just say? I'm not marrying you. Don't you understand?" I turned to the head of security. "Manager Wang, please escort Mr. Lawson and Miss Chiao out of our company. From this moment on, they are no longer our partners and have no authority to enter any area of Summers Tech." Manager Wang froze for a second but quickly recovered and gestured politely. "Mr. Lawson, Miss Chiao, please." Nathan's temper finally exploded. "Morgan Summers, don't regret this. Over such a trivial matter, you're going to destroy everything we've built? You think anyone but me could ever be worthy of you?" I couldn't be bothered to waste another word on him. I turned and walked toward the elevator. Rose, with tears shimmering in her eyes, clung to him. "Nathan, let it go. Miss Summers is just upset right now. Let's leave. It's all my fault. I'll go apologize to her later." Surrounded by security, Nathan was awkwardly escorted out through the front doors. Even through the glass, I could still faintly hear his furious shouting. I walked into the conference room, where my parents and the company's senior executives were already seated, their expressions grave. "Everyone," I began, "I've just informed Nathan that our merger plan with Lawson Group is officially terminated." The room erupted in shocked murmurs. I pressed the remote, and Ethan Howard's photo, along with Sterling Capital's profile, appeared on the screen. "Now I'm introducing our new cooperation target, Sterling Capital. I will personally negotiate with President Howard to secure the most advantageous terms for us. What I need from all of you, starting now, is to forget Lawson Group and prepare for a tougher fight." I glanced out the window just as Nathan's car was pulling away. Nathan would regret many things, but I wouldn't be one of them. 3 days later, Ethan's legal team arrived at my office right on schedule, bringing with them a cooperation proposal even better than I had expected. Clear terms, genuine sincerity. "President Summers," one of the lawyers said, "Mr. Howard never invests unless he's certain. You're the most promising project he's seen in his entire career." News of my partnership with Ethan spread at lightning speed through Sterling Capital's official channels. Summers Tech and Sterling Capital announced strategic merger intent to jointly create a new generation tech giant. The headline instantly set the financial world ablaze. Lawson Group's stock price plummeted on opening, hitting the lower limit within an hour. Panic-stricken investors dumped shares en masse, wiping hundreds of millions from the company's market value in a single day. Nathan's calls flooded in, but I blocked every number he used to reach me. He then turned to bombarding my assistant Monica Chang's phone, demanding that she put me on the line. "What does he want?" Monica asked, clearly irritated. "President Summers, he's saying, how could you work with someone as despicable as Ethan Howard? Are you out of your mind?" Following my instructions, Monica's reply was ice cold. Mr. Lawson, President Summers is in a meeting. She says a CEO ruled by emotions isn't worthy of being her opponent. A loud crash of something breaking came through the phone from his side. In the top-floor penthouse of Lawson Group, Rose was tenderly tending to the cut Nathan had gotten from broken glass. "Nathan, don't be angry. Miss Summers was just acting on impulse. She doesn't understand your good intentions or the sense of responsibility you have toward me. She's too cold. She doesn't deserve you. But it's okay. Even without Summers Tech, we can make a comeback. You've forgotten, I'm best at capital operations. I can help you." Nathan looked at her as if she were the last lifeline he had. His eyes were bloodshot. "Rose, right now only you can help me. I'm giving you the investment decision-making power of the group. Go all out. We must make Morgan Summers and Ethan Howard pay the price." A fleeting glint of triumph flashed in Rose's eyes before she replaced it with a mask of worry. "Nathan, I'm afraid I won't do well." "Don't worry, I trust you," Nathan reassured her, pulling her into his arms, completely missing the victorious smile playing at her lips. The first project of my partnership with Ethan, codenamed Blade, was officially launched. It directly targeted the most profitable core business of Lawson Group. With technology and supply chains at least 2 generations ahead of the industry, coupled with an aggressive market strategy, Blade was like a sharp knife plunging straight into Lawson Group's gut. Their longtime clients began defecting in droves, and new orders fell off a cliff. At Lawson Group's board meeting, shareholders' voices were filled with accusation. Nathan's face grew darker with every word. "Mr. Lawson, we've already lost 30% of our market share. What's your plan? Or are you just going to let Morgan Summers and Ethan Howard keep trampling us?" Nathan pinned all his hopes on Rose. Determined to prove herself, she proposed a bold plan: to pour massive funds into acquiring an emerging tech company in an attempt to counter our Blade project. "Nathan, trust me," Rose urged. "This company has disruptive potential. As long as we acquire it, we can turn the tide and win this fight." Nathan was convinced. Wanting to prove his loyalty and decisiveness, he approved the acquisition. Lawson Group's capital surged into what looked like a promising, up-and-coming company. But neither of them knew this was nothing more than a carefully laid trap by Ethan Howard and me. We had already investigated the company thoroughly. It was an empty shell, stripped of assets and buried under massive debt. The day after the acquisition agreement was signed, the truth came out. Lawson Group hadn't gained a single valuable piece of technology. Instead, they were now saddled with billions in debt. When the news broke, Lawson Group's stock went into free fall again, teetering on the brink of delisting. "Nathan Lawson, you idiot." The largest shareholder slammed the financial report into his face during the board meeting. "This company is going to be destroyed by you and that cursed sister of yours." Nathan's face was ashen as he slumped into his chair. He finally realized just how colossal a mistake he had made. How could this happen? "Didn't you say this company was fine?" For the first time, he roared at Rose in their penthouse. Rose immediately burst into tears, her sobs pitiful enough to make anyone feel sorry for her. "Nathan, I didn't know either. I did my best. It's all Morgan Summers and Ethan Howard's fault. They're too devious. They set a trap and waited for us to walk right in. I was only trying to help you. How is that my fault?" Looking at her tear-streaked face, Nathan's fury quickly gave way to deep regret. He knew he couldn't blame Rose entirely. The real culprit was himself. He was the one who had pushed away the only woman truly capable of standing beside him. He began calling and messaging me like a madman, but I ignored every attempt. When that failed, he started waiting for me outside my company, an entire day without leaving. When I finally finished a meeting and walked out of the building with Ethan, Nathan rushed toward me. He looked gaunt and defeated, a shadow of the confident man he used to be. "Morgan," his voice was hoarse, his eyes red, "I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Please forgive me. Let's start over. I'll have Rose move out right away and cut off all contact with her. Just come back to me." I looked at him with cold detachment, as though I were watching a bad joke play out. Ethan stepped forward, his arm naturally resting around my shoulders. "Mr. Lawson, I think President Summers has made her choice very clear. Clinging on will only make you look more pathetic." Nathan's bloodshot eyes locked onto Ethan's hand on my shoulder, filled with unwillingness and barely contained rage. Just then, a bombshell headline swept across the entire internet. Shocking scandal. Summers Tech CEO Morgan Summers accused of stealing core technology from former partner Lawson Group. The report came with so-called evidence, a few blurry email screenshots and fragments of technical documents, aimed directly at destroying my personal integrity and business ethics. Rose looked at the news, the corners of her lips curling into a vicious smile. Morgan Summers, if I can't have it, I'll destroy you myself. Public opinion exploded. Overnight, I went from being a wronged victim to a despicable thief of trade secrets. So that's why Summers Tech's technology is so advanced, because she stole it. Shows you can never truly know someone. This woman's dangerous. Nathan Lawson is just unlucky. His fiancée and his foster sister are both troublemakers. In the face of this tidal wave of slander, Nathan chose silence. In the public's eyes, his silence was nothing short of confirmation. It shattered the last shred of hope for Lawson's loyal employees and investors who had still believed in him. Ethan's call came in, his voice steady. Need me to handle this? No, I can take care of this little matter myself. I instructed Monica Chang to arrange an emergency press conference. Under the glare of camera flashes, I stood without a hint of panic and directly displayed on the big screen every relevant patent certificate, R&D log, and original code video, each one complete with a verified timestamp. All of these patents were filed before I had any contact with Lawson Group. Everyone here can clearly see who's been lying. The evidence is conclusive, beyond dispute. The reporters below the stage immediately shifted their focus. President Summers, do you know who has been maliciously defaming you? I allowed myself a small smile. I think the answer to that question should be announced by President Howard of Sterling Capital. Ethan stepped onto the stage and took the microphone. Without wasting a single word, he released a detailed investigation report. We have confirmed that the source of this false information comes from an overseas IP address. The registered owner of that IP address is none other than Miss Rose Chiao. This report contains not only the full IP tracking records, but also proof that Rose forged her academic credentials and fabricated her experience in managing a family trust. This so-called capital operations genius was nothing more than an assistant in her ex-husband's household for a short period of time. The audience was stunned. The carefully crafted image of Rose as a talented, wronged victim shattered completely in the face of such irrefutable evidence. She was exposed as nothing but a fraud and a clown. The scandal ignited long-buried resentment within Lawson Group. Rose's phone was flooded with calls, angry shouts, and questions from board members. The group's PR department had collapsed entirely. No matter how hard they tried to manipulate search rankings, they couldn't stop the tidal wave of public outrage. Nathan, look at what you've done. For a woman who does nothing but lie, you've thrown away generations of the Lawson family's legacy. At an emergency board meeting, Nathan's father, the elder chairman of Lawson Group, personally attended. In front of everyone, he struck his son across the face. I hereby strip you of all positions within Lawson Group, effective immediately. Get him out of here. The Lawson family has no such foolish descendants. Security escorted Nathan out, disheveled and defeated, like a dog thrown from its own home. He returned to the penthouse in a daze, only to find Rose frantically packing her things. When she saw him, a flicker of panic crossed her eyes. Nathan, let me explain. But Nathan advanced toward her step by step, his eyes now void of any warmth, replaced only by cold hatred. Explain what? How you lied to me? How you destroyed my company piece by piece? Seeing no point in pretending any longer, Rose set down her things and gave a cold laugh. That's right. It was all me. Nathan Lawson, you're nothing but a complete fool. I gave you so many chances to choose me, but you were always thinking about Morgan Summers. If I can't have something, no one can. Did you really think I loved you? The only thing I loved was the title of Mrs. Lawson and the company behind you. Every word was like a blade, stabbing deep into Nathan's heart. The responsibility he'd been so proud of, the family bond he'd thrown himself into protecting, turned out to be nothing but a carefully plotted con from the start. He had lost his company, his reputation, and the only woman who had ever truly cared for him. He had nothing left. When Lawson Group was at its most chaotic, its stock price at rock bottom, Ethan Howard made his move. Sterling Capital, like a shark scenting blood, launched a ferocious hostile takeover. Without Nathan, the company's internal unity had long since collapsed, leaving them powerless to resist. In less than a week, the acquisition was complete. Sterling Capital took controlling interest at a rock-bottom price, and Ethan became the new owner of the century-old firm. Nathan could only watch as his family's company was renamed and absorbed into Ethan's business empire. The few shares he still held weren't enough to give him a voice in the new boardroom. He became the biggest laughingstock in the business world. And the woman who had brought him to this point, Rose, was already preparing to flee from the airport, thinking she could escape overseas with the money she had swindled. Just as Rose was about to board, several uniformed police officers stopped her. "Miss Chow, you are suspected of stealing and attempting to illegally sell trade secrets. Please come with us." It turned out Ethan had already anticipated she might lash out in desperation and had laid an airtight trap in advance. The so-called confidential materials she thought she could sell for a fortune were nothing but bait Ethan had deliberately planted. Television news showed footage of Rose at the airport, handcuffed and led away, utterly disheveled. Nathan watched from his apartment, and for the first time, tears streamed down his numb face. Not for Rose, but for the past he had personally destroyed. He unlocked his phone, and the screen lit up with a photo of the two of us taken before the merger press conference. In it, I was smiling, bright and confident, my eyes full of light, a light that now belonged to someone else, forever. Half a year later, after the merger of Summers Tech and Sterling Capital, the sweeping restructuring and bold innovations gave rise to a brand new force in the global tech industry, Greystar Technologies. Tonight was the half-year anniversary celebration banquet. The grand ballroom of the city's most prestigious hotel was filled with the most influential figures from finance, technology, and high society. Ethan and I stood side by side at the center of the hall, accepting wave after wave of congratulations, my face calm and confident. He remained at my side, his gaze steady and warm. One of the country's top financial journalists finally managed to get close enough to hand us the microphone. "President Summers, President Howard, your partnership has achieved an extraordinary business miracle in just 6 months, and you've been hailed as the industry's golden duo. What's the secret to your success?" Ethan's hand tightened around mine. His eyes were filled with admiration and affection as he looked at me. "The secret is actually very simple," he said into the cameras, his voice deep and clear. "At the critical crossroads in life, make the right choice." He paused, then added, "And once you've made that choice, never look back." I felt the gentle pressure of his hand and turned to meet his eyes, returning a smile just as steady and warm. "President Howard is right," I continued, letting my gaze sweep over the sea of flashing cameras. "The secret to success is finding a truly like-minded partner, and then giving them 100% of your complete trust." As I spoke, I slowly raised our joined left hands. On my ring finger was a uniquely designed diamond ring, the setting formed by 2 crossed swords guarding a flawless central stone. Ethan had designed it himself, naming it Blades as One, in commemoration of our first joint project's resounding victory. It symbolized not only our unbreakable partnership, but also a deeper, more personal promise. A ripple of good-natured murmurs mixed with admiration spread through the hall, and the flashes from the cameras grew even more intense. Meanwhile, across the city, in a dark, damp rental room barely 10 square meters in size, Nathan sat curled on the cold floor in front of a small television, its screen mottled with static. The air reeked of instant noodles and alcohol. The banquet's live feed was patchy, but that moment burned itself vividly into his mind. He saw the blinding sparkle of the ring on my finger, the unspoken understanding between Ethan and me, and, most painfully, he saw a look on my face he had never seen before. Happiness and serenity, radiating from the depths of my heart. When I had been by his side, my smiles had always carried a trace of caution, a hint of distance, and the politeness of maintaining a business alliance. But now my smile was completely relaxed, dazzling, a smile belonging to a woman who was truly loved and respected. That smile was like the sharpest, hottest scalpel, slicing into his long, numb heart, inch by inch. In that instant, he finally and completely understood what he had lost. It wasn't just a business empire or a powerful ally. He had lost the only person in this world who had once been willing to set aside all grudges, to stand shoulder to shoulder with him at the peak, to face every storm, and whom he had pushed away with his own arrogance and stupidity. He had lost me, and everything I might have brought into his life. He began replaying every detail in his mind, every accusation he had hurled at me over Rose's tears, every moment of self-righteousness he had mistaken for responsibility, and his cowardly, shameful silence when I had been slandered by the entire internet. Every image replaying in his mind became a merciless mockery and a final judgment, and he realized that he was the most pitiful, most laughable clown of all. Regret's tears could no longer be contained. They slid silently from his bloodshot eyes and splattered onto the cold cement floor. He covered his face with both hands, and from his throat came the strangled, twisted sound of an animal driven into a dead end, pain so sharp it warped into a broken whimper. He wanted to scream, to smash everything in sight, but found he no longer even had the strength to release his rage. His life was now nothing but an endless ocean of remorse, drowning him completely. But all of it, every drop of grief, every shred of regret, was a world away from me. On the terrace of the banquet hall, Ethan and I stood side by side. We lifted our champagne glasses and touched them together lightly. We didn't talk about the past, nor about people unworthy of mention. Instead, we spoke of Greystar Technologies' next five-year plan, of the new product about to launch, of our upcoming trip, and of the brilliant future that belonged to us alone. To us, Ethan said softly. To us, I replied with a smile. Months later, Greystar Technologies had solidified its position as a global leader. The Blade project was now used as a case study in top business schools, an example of vision, timing, and flawless execution. Ethan and I moved from milestone to milestone, building not just a company, but a legacy. Nathan's name, once spoken in boardrooms with respect, became little more than a cautionary tale. The man who had once stood at the top of the business world now scraped by doing freelance consulting for small firms who didn't care about his past, so long as he worked for pennies. Whenever he passed a newsstand and saw my face beside Ethan's in the headlines, he looked away, but not quickly enough to escape the stab in his chest. Rose never made it out of prison. Her trial was quick. The evidence was overwhelming. For a time, she still tried to reach Nathan, sending letters he never opened. Eventually, even that stopped. On a warm spring evening, Ethan and I stood together in our office, looking out over the city skyline lit like a field of stars. His arm slipped around my waist, and I leaned into him. The glass walls reflected us, not the woman once forced to fight for her place, nor the man who had walked into my life as a rival, but two equals, standing side by side. "Ready for the next chapter?" he asked. I smiled, my voice steady and certain. "Always." And as the city lights glittered below us, I knew the past was finally where it belonged, behind me. What lay ahead was ours, unshakable and unstoppable.